As a consequence of living in 2025, I am inundated with services that track my habits and my activities. I frequently use loyalty cards so that stores are able to know what people of my age, gender, and location are frequently buying, all for the promise of a little discount at the end of the month. I wear a watch that tracks my steps and my location, my activity, my heart rate. It tracks the level of sound that's in any of the areas that I'm in. I stream music, I stream TV, I use an e-reader. I own the digital only PlayStation. I can't buy physical games. Almost all forms of my entertainment, my shopping, my movements are tracked. They're all kind of digital. Recently, one of my friends invited me to use an app called Earbuds, which is basically a social media app that integrates with Spotify and allows you to see what your friends are currently listening to. Are you tired of skipping through everyone's Instagram stories at the end of the year when Spotify Wrapped comes out? What if we could give that to you every day on the hour? What if it was a little widget on your phone screen that you could see what your friends are actively listening to right now? I couldn't do it with the app. I had to delete it. Using the app itself, just having that widget on my home screen, whenever I would open my phone, it felt like I was in the Panopticon, okay? If there's going to be any sort of topic that is someone's Roman Empire, the Panopticon is my Roman Empire. The Panopticon, for those who don't know, I think it was like a theoretical design of a prison. I don't know if it was actually made, but it was like a round sort of design. Think of like a Colosseum where all of the cells faced inwards, and at the center of, I guess, this kind of courtyard kind of thing that all the cells faced into, there would be a massive tower in the middle. And the idea was that that tower could have a guard in the top of it that was able to see all around themselves in that 360 degrees. They could see into all of the cells. And so the prisoners, thinking that they are being watched at any given time, would behave. Like, that was the idea, that the hopes that they would behave under the watchful eye of whoever's in the guard tower. But the thing is that you didn't even need to have an actual guard inside of that tower. You could just have the idea that there would be a guard in that tower and you would just behave. So even though Earbuds is just a social app that integrates with your Spotify, to me it felt like a prison where I was forced to perform. Okay, I was forced to perform a cool person who listens to cool music, but I don't. Okay, guys, I listen to the same 8 songs on repeat. My Spotify on repeat has not changed in the past 12 months that I've been using it, okay? All of this is to say is that just part of me is tired of this constant volunteering of my data that's being able to be tracked, and all of these services that I use. And I willingly use them because they've become so ubiquitous to modern living that it's hard to stop using them. It's hard to go off grid. If there's one thing that I can do to sort of limit my amount of data that I am tracking, or even if I do still input data, if I'm able to like skew that data in any given way, then cool. One thing that I do want to do is kind of create a personal library, basically, and create little library slips for myself so that when I pick up a book from my bookshelf, I am able to see when I last picked up this book, if I'm rereading it, or I can lend it to people and I can see what I have done with this book and who's like actually read it and everything like that. When I was younger, okay, there was a website called thinkgeek.com, and it has unfortunately gone bust. Okay, it closed down in 2021, but back in the day it was like the go-to place for any cool merchandise. Okay, they would mainly be selling like nerd culture, pop culture type of merchandise. So if you think the pizza cutter that's shaped like a Millennium Falcon, like a zip up hoodie that when you zip it together, it's printed to look like the TARDIS. Like, if you basically just think of the kind of stuff that is now commonly sold at EB Games, that is the kind of stuff that ThinkGeek used to sell. One item in particular that they did sell was this personal library kit, or a DIY library kit. Using the Wayback Machine, even though this website is defunct, the DIY library kit at the time, it was $14.99 USD. With inflation, that's around $20.83 USD, and then converted into Australian, that's around $32.50 Australian dollars in today's money. I couldn't really figure out what the exchange rate would have been historically, and I'm not an economist, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. I don't know if it actually equivalently would have been like the same sort of exchange rate. I'm basing that $32.50 Australian on today's exchange rate, like the inflated equivalent on today's exchange rate. So it could still be different. I don't know global economics, I'm sorry. This same personal library kit, you can get it from Booktopia, an Australian website, for less than $30. I don't know if I've made this clear, but I begged begged my parents, particularly my dad, because like my mum wasn't about that think geek life. Okay, it was my dad who was about that think geek life. I was like, please, please, can I get this DIY library kit? And can you let me know when you're going to be ordering something from Think Geek so that like you can add that to the cart as well and it could be worthwhile. The only book that I do have with any sort of evidence that I had this kit is my copy of Slaughterhouse 5, where in the back I have it. I have this little slip in the back that says Slaughterhouse 5 in really bad handwriting, and also the property of me. I really wanted to recreate something like this, but I wanted it to be more representative, I guess, of what I would actually be doing with my book. I think that this personal library kit that I had and that, is still available these days, it's good for someone who is actually lending their books to people, but I don't really do that. I more so want to have some sort of system where I'm able to pull a book out off the shelf and I can see when I last read it. This is a system that I have come up with. I just have a simple sort of sleeve right here and then a little slip that you can take out, you can fill out with who's taking the book. Maybe it's going to be me, maybe it's going to be someone else, but I'm also going to have the date on it and then the day that I basically return it to the shelf. This is like the prototype that I've done. I think I do need to make a couple more adjustments to it, but come along while we do make those adjustments. Okay, welcome to VoiceOver April. This is the part where we have to look at the nonsense that I get into when I am using Canva, okay? So basically, I first created a table and just labeled it with like the dates, the return dates. I then create a big rectangle with no fill as a color, but I do give it a border so that I just have that plain empty rectangle. And then I play around with putting in text just to say that this is my library. I put in like a little slogan, and for that little cartoon book guy, I basically searched the terms 1930s vintage cartoon to get that style of little guy. I just think he's real cute. Then I think I play around with the text a bit because I try to see if I can get it in a perfect circle, but I can't. But I think the most important thing to note is that you can't really link layers together in Canva, unfortunately. So what you do end up needing to do is you need to select all of your layers and then download your selection, and that will save it as like one whole image. And I really do recommend saving it as one whole image and then playing around with the image, but keeping that sort of original. And then I do the same sort of thing to make the little sleeve that it's going to sit in, basically just creating rectangles for that slip to sit into once it's in the book. Okay, so now we've used Canva to design what we need to design. I've designed my little slips. I have adjusted this little guy. It's going to stick into the book itself. And so because I'm going to be using my Cricut machine to cut it out, I will be using the Cricut software in order to basically position everything on a page and then have it print through the Cricut software, etc. I am going to go through and I'm going to show you what I then do on Cricut. Okay, we're back at it with VoiceOver April. So basically, I just want to make sure that whatever image I'm uploading, I'm selecting that it is a flat graphic so that I can print and then cut. And then I go through and make sure that they're both the size that I want them to be, and making sure that the slip is going to be smaller than the sleeve so it'll actually fit. And then I just go through, duplicate it a couple of times, and then I go through and position it. I know that I'm able to get at least 5 of each on each A4 page, so I'm just kind of moving everything around so that I can actually get those 5 printed and use the most efficient amount of space that I can. Okay, so as I'm getting the printer all ready, I just want to show you the paper that I use. So for my little prototypes, I don't know if you can really tell on camera, but it's not thin paper like normal kind of printer paper, but it's also not very thick. It's not like cardboard or anything like that. It's not like visual arts diary type of paper either. Like it's still a little bit thin, but it's not as flimsy as it would be if it was just like normal printer paper. So the type of paper that I did use is this one here. This is just one that I picked up at Officeworks, but it's 125 GSM. I think that's like grams per square meter, maybe. I don't know. This is in the color cream because I thought it would give it like a cool vintage kind of look to it. Also, this one, it just came in a 25 pack, so I'm not sure how many I'll be able to make if I'm able to get essentially a set of 5 out of 2 pages. So I'll get 50 books done, maybe. I feel like my brain is mush now. That surprisingly took hours to do, to like print out every page, load it on a Cricut mat, have Cricut run it through, cut it all out, unload the mat, print the next page, load it. But I'm done now, okay? So I've printed out like as many as I could and then had Cricut cut them, and then my Cricut ended up having an absolute meltdown and didn't read the cut lines. So I think I might be possibly outnumbered by like the slips versus the holders, but I ran out of paper. I just don't have any more paper. So also I had this thought in my head like, oh, I'm not gonna get any re-roll of like it printing it out and the Cricut machine cutting it up, because I'll just get that on my last couple ones so I can focus on getting it all done. But then obviously the Cricut freaked out on me, and so I wasn't able to get that footage. So just imagine what it looks like. You guys know what a piece of paper printing out looks like. You know what it looks like. You're fine. I don't know exactly how many printed out. I think at least 40 sets of these and the slips. So what we're now going to do is glue this guy into as many books as I can, and then I will be able to put my little slippy dips in them. For glue, I'm using one of these, which is like a double-sided glue dispenser. This in particular is from Tombow. My only thing is that it has this little switch here where I'm able to like open it up and presumably replace any of that tape that's in here. However, I haven't been able to find replacement tape. Oh my god, my cat is... Miso. You guys were like around before when I said, oh, I really wish I could replace this. Okay, moments of disaster. Okay, a little bit of foreshadowing there. I've run out and I've only gotten 6 done.
Several days later.
Miso. Do you see this dude? He just ran the printer because his fat ass is sitting on it and now he's confused. What? What did you think would happen? Oh my god. Anyway,